Most of you should not be taking peptides, and the people telling you to are either getting paid or they have no idea what's actually in the vial they're injecting. Now, I'm not saying that all peptides don't work. There are some good ones out there. There can be some powerful tools. But I am saying that the way that they're being sold to you right now is somewhere between a waste of your money and a genuine danger to your health. Even if you do everything perfectly, there's a deeper reason they still won't work for most of you. Now, I've spent 17 years fixing the energy and anxiety and burnout and close to 8,000 high performers, so I've watched this play out hundreds of times. So let me show you what no one saying these peptides wants you to see. And by the end of this video, you'll know more about this than 99% of the people actually pushing them. And I want to start with the part that can actually hurt you. Now, peptides that are being sold to consumers are not regulated like medicine. They're sold as research chemicals. You've probably seen that phrase and skimmed past it, for research use only, not for human consumption. Those sentences right there are not for. That's the entire legal reason these companies are allowed to exist. And the moment you say that, you've left every consumer protection that normally applies to anything you swallow or inject. And there's no regulator checking that the powder in the vial is what the label says it is. No one verifying the dose. No one's testing it for contamination. The company's trusting their supplier, the supplier's trusting their lab, and that lab is very often a facility you'll never see in a country with no oversight you can rely on, making 100 to 150 different compounds in the same building. And independent testing on consumer peptides has found vials with barely any active compound in them at all. Underdosed to the point where you get nothing even if your body could use it, and others come back overdosed, which sounds like a bonus until you realize you have no idea how much you're actually injecting. And then there's the purity. A peptide is a chain of amino acids built in a lab, one link at a time, and that process is never perfect. You always end up with bits of broken chains, leftover chemical reagents from the manufacturing, and fragments of the peptides you wanted at all. The good labs purify all of that out, and they can prove it. The cheap ones don't, because purification is the expensive part. So when you inject a cheap vial, you're not just injecting the peptide, you're injecting whatever else came along for the ride. That can be solvents, heavy metals from sloppy synthesis, endotoxins, which are basically bacterial debris that can spike a fever and drop your blood pressure, bits of protein that your immune system has never seen before and might decide to attack. And there's another part that should really stop you in your tracks, and that is that you can't tell any of this by looking. The fake stuff and the real stuff look identical in the vial. The same white powder, the same clean little bottle, the same professional label. And the label is actually the easiest thing in the world to print and to fabricate. The certificate of analysis some of these sites show, they can be completely fabricated. It could be a real test batch of one thing, also that has nothing to do with the batch they shipped you. And so you're literally trusting a stranger with your bloodstream based on their website and their logo. And that's the actual transaction that's happening here. The whole space exploded because peptides sit in a perfect grey zone. They're powerful enough to feel like a real medicine, but sold in a legal loophole with none of the cost or accountability of real medicine. And that combination is a catnip for people who want to make money fast. The playbook is really simple. You just spin up a slick website, name it something that sounds like a lab, put a stock photo of a guy in a white coat on the homepage, and you buy bulk powder from overseas for almost nothing, put it in vials, slap a clinical looking label on it, and sell it at a markup that would make a pharmacy blush. Then you just get the influencers to push it, and that's the engine of the whole thing. And a huge amount of the peptide hype you're seeing is paid. And the rip guys talking about how BPC 157 changed their life, often having a affiliate link in their bio. And they make money every time you buy through their link. They're not doctors, they're salesmen who understand that when they say, I inject this and feel amazing, they sell a lot of products. And even the ones who aren't getting paid are usually just repeating what they heard from someone else who was getting paid. It's a giant game of telephone where the original message was an advert. And then you just stack the scams on top. Sites that take your money and ship nothing, sites that ship sugar, sites that were real for 6 months, built up reviews, and they quietly swap to cheaper garbage once people trusted the brand. Payment processors don't like this industry, so a lot of these places want crypto or bank transfer, which means if they do it too often, there's no chargeback, no recourse, no nothing. Your money's gone, and so is the website. I'm not telling you every company is a scam. There are a small number of genuinely careful suppliers out there. The problem is, as a normal person, you have almost no reliable way to tell them apart from the ones that are a front. And by the time you find out that you bought the wrong thing and the scanned vial is already in your arm. But let's just say you got lucky. You found a real supplier and the vial is exactly what it claims to be. You still have to put it in your body. And this is where I watch people who would never do anything on their own, their dental work, for example, or anything, turn their kitchen into a clinic. And most consumer peptides come as freeze-dried powder, and before you can use them, you have to reconstitute them, which means mixing it with the sterile water, working out the right concentration, and drawing the correct dose into a syringe. And most people are doing this maths on a Reddit thread at 11 or 12 at night. And the number of people I've seen inject 10 times the dose they meant to because they fumbled a decimal point is generally frightening. And then there's the actual injection. Every single needle, breaks your skin, a direct doorway from the outside world into your body. And the skin is the wall that keeps the bacteria out, and you're punching a hole in it. Do it without a proper sterile technique, and you can introduce bacteria right under the skin. And that gives you an abscess, which is a pocket of infection that often needs to be cut open and drained. If you get bacteria into the bloodstream, that's even worse. The infection of the blood can turn life-threatening fast. And people are reusing needles because they feel new ones are wasteful. And a reused needle is dull, so it does more damage to the tissue going in, and it's also carrying whatever was on it before. And people are injecting into the same spot over and over again, and they end up with hard, scarred, lumpy tissue that stops absorbing anything properly. People have also been hitting blood vessels they didn't mean to, and they're storing reconstituted vials wrong, and letting bacteria grow in the very thing they're about to inject. And that bacteriostatic water everyone tells you to use, it only slows down bacteria. It doesn't sterilize anything. And then if you use tap water because you run out, you're now injecting whatever lives in your pipes. And here is what makes this worse for the audience I'm talking to, is that as a high performer, you're busy, and you're probably doing this in a rush, maybe right early in the morning, maybe before you go to bed at night, in between meetings, half distracted, telling yourself you've got it handled because you handle everything. And that confidence is precisely how mistakes happen with needles. And I'll be blunt, injecting an unknown substance of unknown purity at an unknown dose with no medical supervision is not biohacking, it's a genuine gamble with your health, and the house, as always, has the edge. And that's part one. The stuff might be fake, the market is full of people paid to lie to you, and injecting it carries real risk even when everything goes right. But there's another part that matters even more, and that's that if I handed you the perfect vial right now, real compound, perfectly purified and dosed, injected with a flawless technique by a nurse, for most of you it still wouldn't work. And that's because peptides are not drugs. Now, a drug forces your body to do something whether it wants to or not, whereas a peptide is a signal, a tiny message written in the language your biology already speaks, and that message says something like, repair this tissue, or calm this information down. That is generally beautiful when it works. But remember, you're not adding a foreign chemical. For sending your body an instruction, it already knows how to follow. The catch is that a signal is only as good as the system receiving it. And so you can send the most perfect repair instruction in the world to a body that has no power to carry it out, so nothing happens. The message can arrive, but there's no one at home to act on it. And that's what brings me to what's actually wrong with most of you. It's not a peptide deficiency, it's that your cellular power supply has been shutting down for years and you don't even know it. And inside almost every cell in your body are tiny structures called mitochondria. These are your power plants. Their entire job is to take the food you eat, the water you drink, the oxygen you breathe, and turn it into a molecule called ATP, which is the actual energy your body runs on. Every heartbeat and every thought you have is ATP being spent right down to repairing a single cell. And a healthy mitochondria running clean produces a huge amount of energy from each unit of fuel. A damaged one produces a fraction of that, 15 times less in fact. So when your mitochondria get sick, you don't run out of fuel, you run out of the ability to turn fuel into power. So you can eat perfectly and sleep for 8 hours and still feel like you're dragging a body that weighs twice what it should. That is what chronic fatigue actually is at a cellular level. It's not weak willpower, it's not bad sleep hygiene, it's that your cells can literally not make enough energy to run your body. And it's why your brain switches off at 2 p.m. It's why the Adderall you're taking barely touches the sides anymore, because you're trying to whip an engine that's already broken. It's why the cold plunge only gives you 45 minutes of feeling alive and you crash harder than before. And so it's not just energy. The mitochondria also power your hormone production, your immune system, your ability to detoxify, your mood, your brain. So when they go down, it's not just that you're tired, it's that you're tired and foggy and anxious and your gut's a mess and your sleep is broken all at the same time, because the power is that you're tired and foggy and anxious and your gut's a mess and your sleep is broken all at the same time, because the powers to every department in your body got cut all at once. So what's actually draining them? Well, it's three things, and they feed each other. The first thing, and it's the biggest, is the nervous system stuck in survival mode. Now, when you live in a chronic stress state, which describes basically every entrepreneur I've ever met, your body pumps out cortisol around the clock, and you never get into rest and repair where your body actually rebuilds. And chronically high cortisol drives inflammation, and inflammation throws off free radicals that physically tear holes in your mitochondria. The second is an inflamed and leaky gut. Now, years of stress and processed food and alcohol and antibiotics break down the gut lining of your gut. And so it starts letting things through that should never reach your bloodstream. Undigested food, bacteria, and toxins, they start leaking into your bloodstream. And the immune system panics and attacks. And that's the second roaring fire of inflammation, hammering your mitochondria on top of the first. And the third is a blocked detoxification system. Now, your body has a system to clear all this waste, mainly your colon and your liver. And in most people, that system is backed up and overwhelmed. So the toxins that should be leaving you just get reabsorbed and recirculate again, driving even more inflammation, draining even more energy. And every part of this feeds the next. So stress damages the mitochondria, so you have less energy to detoxify. So you have toxins that build up, so inflammation rises, so the gut gets worse, so you absorb fewer nutrients, so the mitochondria can't repair, so you're more tired, so you're more stressed. And round, getting a little bit worse every year. That's why you feel like you're slowly declining instead of improving. You're been pouring fuel into an engine that can't burn it. So you take BPC 157 to heal your gut. A BPC 157 works by telling your cells to repair, to build new blood vessels, and to lay down new tissue. And all that construction work costs an enormous amount of energy and ATP. If your mitochondria are running out a fraction of the capacity that they can, you just handed your body a blueprint for a building it has no power to construct. Then you take Epitalon to fix your sleep and slow your aging. But Epitalon only works when the assumption is that the rest of your system is healthy enough for it to respond. And in the body drowning in inflammation and oxidative stress, we're trying to do restoration work on a house that's actively on fire. You take something for energy, but the problem was never the shortage of signals telling your cells to make energy. The problem is the power plants themselves are damaged. More instructions don't rebuild a broken factory. This is the whole thing in that one sentence. Wait to say it again. More instructions don't rebuild a broken factory. So the peptide isn't the variable that decides whether you get better. The state of the body receiving it does. That's why the same vial does something for one person, that's something remarkable, and does nothing for another. It's almost never the peptide or the dose. It's whether the body had enough power and a calm enough environment to act on the message. So sending repair signals to an inflamed, energy-starved body is like sending detailed renovation plans to a construction crew that has no power, no materials, it has a section a week. The plans can be perfect, but nothing gets built. And it's not that peptides are evil and you should never touch them. I mean, I won't be touching them, but you go for it if you want. But the real thing is the sequence. You have to fix the terrain before you add anything to it. You have to get your nervous system out of permanent survival mode so your body can finally drop into repair. And then once you bring the inflammation down, you heal the gut lining so it stops leaking. You unblock the detoxification pathways so your body can actually clear the waste that's marinating in. And the actual ironic part is that once you do that, the body starts producing a lot of these repair and healing signals. It's on its own, the way it's supposed to. It's a huge amount of what people are actually paying hundreds of dollars a month to inject. A healthy body does and makes for free. So when the terrain is right, peptides stop being a desperate shortcut and become what they're actually meant to be, an amplifier in a system that's already working. And that's when they generally are worth using if you're going to use them. The real order of operations is the exact opposite of what you're being sold. The internet says add the peptide first. Your body and the biology and the results say clear the system first, then decide if you even need the peptide. Most of the time, once the foundation is fixed, the thing that you are trying to inject your way to, which is your own body, came back online. And the single most powerful move here is free. Get your nervous system out of fight or flight, because nothing repairs in a body that thinks it's under attack. So start there before spending a single penny on anything in a vial. And if you watch this far, you're probably the kind of person I work with. Someone that's done well, who's tried the supplements and the doctors and biohacks, but is quietly furious that none of it has stuck. So before you add the next thing, whatever the vial or stack you saw someone hyping online, ask yourself whether your body is even in a state to use it. Because if the foundation is broken, the purest, perfectly dosed peptide on earth is still a waste of money. It's money set on fire. Now, I help high performers fix a foundation in the right order so that energy comes back at the root instead of being faked with stimulants and injectables or chased. And if you want to see whether that's you and you're fit for this, there's an application link in the description. It's a conversation, it's not a pitch, because I'd rather just see where you're at rather than try and sell you something that your body can't even use. But whether we talk or not, take one thing from this video. The answer to feel broken was never going to be in a vial that you order from a stranger on the internet. The results are going to come when you fix the machine. Once you fix the body, it will start to heal itself. That is the whole game. And I'll see you in the next video.